Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here, and welcome to a subscriber special video. Now this video request was via Young Flav 193, and his idea, amongst many awesome ideas, was can you do a video on stating which wrestlers you would like to see jump ship from WWE to AEW and vice versa. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for 5 completely random picks, some individual superstars, some factions, and just roll with it. And as always, get down in the comment section, let me know who you would like to see jump ship. Who do you think would be better off in the other promotion? Now, before we get into the juicy stuff, as always, it'd be very much appreciated if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new. So let's cut to the chase, and let's start with an AEW wrestler that would potentially be better off in WWE. And my first pick goes to Wardlow. I honestly think he would be tailor-made for WWE. At 6'3", over 260 pounds, the guy doesn't need to talk much. He's an athletic monster. Now, there was a point when I thought AEW were going to push Wardlow to the moon, around the time when he was still part of the Pinnacle, but breaking away from that faction, obviously being MJF's bodyguard and all of that. And he got some red hot reactions. It seemed like they were really going to push him. But the former 3-time AEW TNT champion, it's safe to say, is cooled off. The momentum is cooled off, at least, in AEW for the time being. And I think WWE would utilise him really well. I get like Batista vibes, and maybe he gets a mouthpiece. Someone like Paul Heyman. Doesn't need to talk, just needs to beat the living daylights out of people. And I think from a markability standpoint, he'd be perfect for WWE. Right, so now we've got to go over to the other side of things and look at a WWE superstar that would be better off potentially in AEW. And I'm going to go out there and say Ricochet. Now, that's not to say I think he's been utilised poorly in WWE. I think he's been utilised reasonably well. But I just think the matches that he could have in AEW from a pro wrestling standpoint is better. When I think of Ricochet, I think of a pro wrestler. I don't think of a sports entertainer. And I just think there would be endless matches. I don't think he'd go to the top of the card in AEW, but I think he'd do really well. And also from a purely selfish standpoint, I would love to see the potential rematch between Ricochet and Will Ospreay. That would be incredible. Of course, throw back to 2016, and it could happen with the links to New Japan. Love to see that. Purely just being a selfish wrestling fan, really. Now, of course, we switch our attention to another AEW superstar that could potentially be better off in WWE. And I'm going to the women's division in Jamie Hayter. Now, of course, she's been utilised well. Of course, former interim AEW women's champion. But I just think she would be a perfect heel fit for WWE. This bully within WWE. You could potentially pair her up with Blair Davenport, of course, NXT roster member. Of course, they have history. They're former partners. I'd love to see that. And they could essentially be the bullies of WWE. But at the same point, the Southampton-based, and again, I'm being slightly biased because, of course, she's from England, born and bred. You could, of course, put her into a babyface role too. I think that would happen organically. But Jamie Hayter, honestly, I believe she could work within WWE. Now, of course, switching back to the other side, a superstar in WWE that potentially be better off in AEW. And I'm going with the Celtic Warrior in Sheamus. And this might surprise you because you might think, well, Sheamus is going to be a WWE lifer. And yes, he probably is. But I honestly think he'd be an absolute weapon in AEW. They would push him to the top, at least the mid to upper card. And I feel that Sheamus at the moment, at the age he's at in WWE, isn't going to get to the top of the mountain in WWE. Again, I hope he gets the IC title. I really do hope he gets that in WWE. But I feel that Sheamus could suit AEW really, really well. And to be fair, he can work in both of them. He's very versatile. But I'm just going for that pick. Now, switching to the other side, a trade to WWE from AEW in Powerhouse Hobs. Now, I think he's just tailor-made for WWE. He's still a little bit green, I believe, personally, when it comes to storytelling. But I think he could really benefit from a stint in NXT and then build his way up and then actually be a real credible act on the main event roster. Of course, former one-time TNT champion within AEW. At 6'1", like 270 pounds, he'd just be this absolute wrecking machine in WWE. I could see him fitting there. I really could. Now, of course, we've got to switch to the other side. Who could potentially be better off in AEW? And I'm going to the women's division again. And I'm going for Shayna Baszler. Now, I don't think there's actually anything wrong with the way, especially currently, that Shayna Baszler has been booked. But I honestly believe that AEW would utilise her as a top act. Much like she was utilised in NXT. I think she'd just be this human wrecking machine. And I think it would go down really well in AEW. She's not the greatest talker. She doesn't need to. That's not her character. That's not what she's about. And I think AEW would open the door to so many intriguing feuds. As Shaina, obviously, as this monster of a heel. I think it could work. I honestly do. Now, of course, switching to the other side. An AEW superstar trading to WWE. And I'm going for House of Black. Yes, I'm going for my first faction pick. Now, I do think they've been utilised fairly well in AEW, but I just purely love to see a feud between the House of Black and Judgment Day. Purely down to Buddy Matthews and the way he would probably absolutely annihilate and deck Dirty Dom Mysterio. They could tie in some form of real life shenanigans with the kayfabe, and that would be pretty cool. And of course, there would be so many interesting feuds that House of Black could have within WWE. I honestly think it's a red hot act anyway, but it could go to like flaming hot levels within WWE. Of course, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, Julia Hart, and of course, Malachi Black, aka Aleister Black, could rule WWE. And of course, switching back to a WWE act that could potentially be better off in AEW, and I'm going with Johnny Gargano. Now, I'm obviously optimistic in terms of the future of his booking within WWE. Of course, they've reformed DIY, and yes, that is going to be fire. However, I feel like Johnny Wrestling would be better off in AEW. The matches that he could have on a week-to-week basis, he would be utilised in every sense of the pro wrestling side of things. Of course, you could throw Tommaso Ciampa in there as well. Of course, you could also throw Candice LeRae in there as well. Hey, I'm just going to throw like DIY and the whole of the way in there. But I can only pick one really, can't I here? So I'm going with Johnny Gargano. I could see him working really well within AEW. I don't think he'd be a top act. I'm sure he wouldn't be a top act. But I certainly feel like he'd get a run with some mid-card titles. And that's more than he's had on his main roster run within WWE. However, it's a little bit premature. Let's give it time. I still think he'll do well within WWE. I'm optimistic for the future. And switching my attention to my final AEW to WWE trade. There's so many to pick from, but I'm going for the absolute Ricky Starks. Yes, he has been utilised extremely well in AEW, but he is also tailor-made for WWE. He can play face and heel so well. He'd be immensely popular. He's so versatile, and he has just got the look. He is Slick Rick. He is fantastic in the ring, like honestly class, and he is so good on the mic. I certainly feel that he has that sports entertainer sort of vibe to him, and from a merchandise standpoint, from a markability standpoint, he would be a top guy. But hey, he is still doing really well in AEW. I don't think he's in a bad place there, but I could see him in WWE. I really could. Now that brings me on to my final pick, which is a slightly controversial pick. It's never going to happen. I mean, I'm pretty confident that AJ Styles is going to retire in WWE. But purely from a selfish standpoint, how cool would this sound? If AJ Styles was to finish his career, he is like 46, but remember, Adam Copeland is 49, so it could happen. But just imagine if AJ Styles got one last push and he could say that he was the AEW World Champion, the WWE World Champion, TNA and IWGP. Who could say that? Like, what a resume. Like, just imagine in AEW, you could bet would offer AJ Styles the moon to see out his career in that promotion. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's going to happen. I personally feel that AJ Styles will retire at like a WrestleMania sometime soon. Within the next couple of years, I believe he stated that he does want to see out his career in WWE. And it kind of makes sense to do that. But hey, I got to make some picks. So there we have it. There's my picks. As always, get down in the comment section. I want to hear your picks. Who would you like to see trade companies? And remember, at the end of the day, this is just healthy competition. I don't get why fans are so toxic about this war between AEW and WWE. This is just a fan-made war. It's healthy competition. Wrestling is in a fantastic place. And personally, I enjoy both brands for the different unique elements they bring to each of their products. Thank you so much for watching the video. As always, it'd be very much appreciated if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new, and we'll catch you in the next one.